time, so let's get into it. So elemental mastery. The whole thesis behind this particular class is to share the information that I believe is most important about the elements, and that's what it means to be holistic. Holistic. You see that symbol that's on my screen right here. Everybody's seen this, right? In the medical institution. This is the staff of Hermes, Hermes Trismegistus. This is used in almost every medical establishment around the world. And this particular symbol is the symbol of the Holy Trinity. It's used in the healthcare field because health and being holy or being whole are what we consider to be the healthiest form or the highest potential for the human being. And when you see that staff represents your spine and the electrical current that goes up it. And the two serpents, they represent the two energy fields of your body, the divine feminine, or your magnetic principle, and the divine masculine, or your electrical principle. When these two things are moving in equal measure, when they're moving in balance, that's when we are in harmony. That's when we are whole. It's called holistic because when magnetism and electricity are in harmony or benevolence, it completes a whole electromagnetic circuit or a cycle, and it begins to move cyclically throughout the body. And if anybody's ever heard of or has experienced a Kundalini experience, this symbol is the representation of that Kundalini experience, or what they call the highest potential for humanity, or the beginning of the highest potential. Excuse me. So what we look at here, when we're talking about the Holy Trinity, we have to talk about the three aspects of what it means to be whole, what it means to be healthy. And even in the word medical means med. It means middle, to be centered, to have our energy flowing up the center of our body. The electromagnetic experience is able to complete itself without any resistance. Whenever there's electrical or electromagnetic resistance in the line of any form of electrical current, we get a stoppage of the voltage. We get a stoppage of any form of energy. When that happens inside of our body, we get disease. The electrical flow that moves through our body moves through when there is the least amount of resistance. So here on my screen, I'm showing you the essential Holy Trinity that's inside each and every one of us. These are also the principles for any form of esoteric teaching and any form of magic. So on the left, bottom left, we have magnetism, which is the divine feminine. In magic or esoteric teachings, it's banishment. It's our body, or the noun. It represents our environments, the people, places, and situations that we end up in our lives. Are all ruled by this magnetic principle. On the right, the bottom right, we have the divine masculine essence of ourselves, that electricity, our soul, our life force. The word soul itself is actually derivative of sun or soleil. So our soul is our animating life force, the energy, the electricity that moves through our body in order to animate our lives, our moving essential animating force, or our masculine energy that we consider the verb. And then, of course, the highest potential when our feminine principle and our masculine principle are in harmony, when they are balanced. And I'm going to talk about how to balance these things and allude to how that relates to the elements in this conversation. But when those two things are in complete harmony and balance, we have what's called the divine androgynous. This is also the element of spirit. Spirit. So we're going to talk about homeostasis and spirit and what that means as we kind of move through here. You may have actually heard of the healing modality of Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono in Hawaii and the esoteric teachings of Ho'oponopono actually means homeostasis or divine homeostasis, or that which occurs when that the masculine and the feminine principles are in balance. This would also be related to your crown chakra, your mind, your thoughts, the things that you put out into the world. And this is actually why shamans of many cultures have feathers that are sticking out of their head that represents the voltage dispersing out of their bodies from that magnetic and electrical principle being in harmony within ourselves. Now, that feminine principle sits at our belly button in our bodies. So from the belly button down, that is your sensational body. We sometimes call it the gut instinct. The gut instinct. That's when the body communicates with you to open or close based on you being in the correct environments, the nouns, with the correct people. The body is constantly communicating with you via your senses, via that place in your gut. The masculine principle, the electrical principle, is at the place of your heart. The masculine is at the place of your heart and contributes the voltage as directed by the leader, which is the feminine. So the feminine is to guide the masculine and says, okay, this is correct. I would like to do this. I have a vision or I have a feeling to do this. And then the inner masculine's job is to say, okay, I will take care of that. We consider the masculine to be the artist or the architects of our lives. And that's why the Freemasons called the heart the great architect. And this is a kind of like if you read Masonic texts, that's their deity, that's their god. They call him the great architect. And a lot of Masons really do believe it's a dude with a white beard in the sky. But the great architect is your heart, meaning that the voltage that comes out of the center of your heart sends out an electromagnetic field called the torus, and thereby electrifies the field of protons, neutrons, and electrons in your world, and then either magnetizes or pushes things away based on the frequency or the rate of your heartbeat. And in many Zoroastrian texts, and Zoroastria is one of the oldest known religions in the world, Zoroastria. And this predates Christianity, it predates almost any religious text. And in their teachings, they say that the heart is a time machine, meaning the frequency or the reality that you live in and the perception of your reality has everything to do with the rate at which your heart beats. The rate at which your heart beats. So, when that magnetic and that electrical principle are in harmony, then you have your highest potential, the spirit. So a lot of people don't really know also the difference between spirit and soul, right? So I said soul was that animating life force that moves our bodies, our physical bodies. Well, the spirit is essentially your consciousness, that which comes into the body and animates your mind. It animates you as a tendril of the great creator, of the collective consciousness that we all belong to, but it's that individual consciousness that is you, that is the essence of who you are inside of the experience, inside of the human experience. So how do the elements play into this? Well, the elements are all represented by different essential planets and movements in the sky. And I'm going to show you how the elements are used in astrology and esoteric teachings in order to teach you how to work with these things. Now, each element that we work with in the astrological wheel, there are 12 houses in the zodiac. There's 12 houses in the zodiac wheel that we call the wheel of life. And for each element, so earth, water, wind, fire, there are 3 zodiac signs that are associated with each one of those elements. So for earth signs, for example, you have Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. They all belong to the house of earth. For the air signs, we have Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. They belong to the Holy Trinity of air. And we call it the Holy Trinity because just like I explained in that kind of previous little triangle of the Holy Trinity, each one of these houses actually teach you how to work with that element. And it teaches you how to work with that element inside of you. Because as you can see here, looking at the zodiac chart, when we look at the zodiac from the perspective of esoteric astrology, we are looking at the holistic view of all of us as a being. Those 12 houses, those 12 zodiac houses in the sky, they correlate in esoteric astrology and many shamanic traditions to the 12 cranial sacral nerves that are in your brain. So electromagnetically, we are connected to the 12 houses of the zodiac that moves that information into the 12 cranial sacral nerves of our brain. And then that information moves down our spine and is distributed into the organs of our body. Now, if you actually look at your birth chart, or you've had your birth chart done with me or any other astrologer, you'd be looking at essentially your birth chart looks like a cross section of the electromagnetic currents of your brain, of how your mind works. And this essential blueprint is how we look at how the stars are affecting you on a day-to-day basis, whether it's your body, your soul, or your spirit, your physical body, your energy, your energetic body, your vitality, and of course, your mind body, your spirit, and your consciousness. So this wheel that you're looking at is just showing you the direct correlation between all of the signs, the houses, and how they actually correlate directly into the body. So the whole point of this is I'm going to show you essentially what I call the fingerprint of creator. I'm giving you a bit of a preview into a course that I'm putting on later, but this is going to give you tons of information, even if you're not joining that one. So the holy trinities of each element, the holy trinity of each element is essentially showing you for example, air represents the mind. Okay, so that holy trinity of air is going to show you the epitome of the mind of the creator. When it's in its highest potential, when the air elements are in balance inside of you, you have access to what we call the mind of God. When the elements of earth are in balance within you, you have access to the material wealth or the material essence of creator or God, whatever you want to call it. Same thing with water signs. The holy trinity of water will teach you how to be in emotional balance in the highest potential of your emotional experience. So when we look through all of these things, we can have this conversation about how to become whole, holy, and holistic within ourselves just by understanding the elements that make us up, the building blocks of our entire reality. So let's just jump right into the elements. The first one is air. So just throw down in the comments what your sun sign is. If you know your sun or your moon sign, if you know which element you're dominant in your chart, that's cool too. Fire, Cancerian sun, Gemini, Aries, moon, Leo. Amazing. Libra, Taurus. It's a lot of Libra. Okay, perfect. Amazing. So with that knowledge, you're going to be able to look at these signs with a little bit more of a kind of like a zoomed in view of what these signs really mean. So when it comes to the element of air, as you can imagine, if you were to think about a body from the feet all the way to the head, think about the elements in terms of their density to the most light. Think about them in terms of their weight. If you think about air, this is how I remember that air has to do with the mind because it's extremely light. So it's closer to the top of our heads. The holy trinity of air is Gemini, that rules the body or that feminine principle. You have Libra, which is the soul of the trinity of air. And then you have Aquarius, which is the highest potential, or it's called the mind of God. And that rules the spirit of air. So when you're talking about the air principle inside of yourselves, just think about where do you receive air in the body? In the lungs, right? It's the first thing that animates your life. It pulls the spirit into the body when you're born, and you die upon your last breath. Your last breath. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a little cold. So air as an element plays a really special role. The air element itself inside of our body sits in the center of our chest, actually in the heart. It is directly correlated with that heart chakra or the heart space. And the way that this works is if you look at the etymology of the word inspire, and the word breathe itself in Latin actually means in spirit. So think about the air element as if it's pulling the spirit, pulling the consciousness into your body. It is the force that pulls in the thought. It pulls in the spirit. It invites the spirit. That's why you see Aquarius up there with the vase and it's pouring into something. What that means is it's pouring in consciousness into your body. So whenever you're thinking about air, just think about Aquarius and that higher potential of pouring air into the body. And when I say higher potential, I only mean as an archetype. That doesn't mean that if you're a Gemini or a Libra, that you're not a high potential air sign. That's not what that means. And in fact, as an astrologer, I find it's my job to also remind everybody that it's fun to look at our specific birth chart and see where the planets are lined up and how that affects us. But we have to remember that we are all 12. We are all 12 signs of the zodiac. Those 12 signs of the zodiac are also the allegorical 12 disciples in the Bible, which also they're called disciples because it was translated and it means disciplines. They're the 12 disciplines that when those disciplines are essentially achieved, you unlock the Christ consciousness state. And that's how we are meant to be using astrology, not as a personality report, even though it is fun and I do it sometimes too. But the higher potential of astrology itself, astrologos, language of the stars, is to interpret the language of the creator and to become as close to the creator as we can and bring heaven to earth. So when we're looking at this holy trinity of air, we look at first Gemini, the feminine element or the body. So what does that mean? Well, Gemini is the sign of, well, they call it the twins, because Gemini is, it rules the lungs in our body, the two lungs, but also the hands. So when you know the word manifestation, the word mani means hands. So this has a lot to do with the mental aspects of creation. Gemini, they all 12 of them have an I am statement because they all represent a part of the eternal I, like ourselves, and the I am connection to spirit, to the creator. So Gemini's I am statement is I think. So this is that initial thought, that guiding thought, the thoughts that we have that are called in by the quality of our breathing. Gemini, in the physical sense, is your literal lungs and the quality of your breath. Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury. Mercury has been known as, remember I showed you right at the beginning of the slides that staff of Hermes with the two snakes going up it? Well, Hermes Trismegistus is considered to be the great communicator from spirit and that which delivers the inspiration. Gemini is known as the sign of the writer and the teacher and the great thinkers. Now, when we talk about in terms of manifestation, Mercury is considered that quicksilver element that connects the 12 houses of the zodiac, the creator's mind, into our minds. That quicksilver, some people call it the silver cord. And if you've ever had an out-of-body experience, one of the first things that you see is a silver cord coming from your body. This silver cord is what connects you to the ethereal realm. And it's what animates us from the stars. So knowing that the quality of your breath is equal to the quality. So remember, body represents the noun, the environment. So the quality of your thoughts has a great deal to do with this air element, saying that the air is directly connected to the heart. And I said that your reality and your perception of reality is moving out electrically from your heart based on the heart rate. So if you're breathing slowly, long, deep breaths, relaxed through the nose, your heart rate will go down. Master meditators from Tibet will actually, they said the ideal breath is 1 minute. 1 minute. So that's a 30-second inhale and a 30-second exhale. It's very hard to do, but that's considered to be like the master's breath. Because with that inspiration, that full body full of oxygen, you will be inspired and filled with new ideas. And that's actually the important part of understanding how breath work works as well. If I'm to add kind of like a real practical tool to get in touch with your inspirations, if you're feeling mentally blocked, if you're having issues where your thoughts are stuck, and mental health issues, it's really important to start with the element of air and making sure that your spirit is as connected to the body as it can be. Now, moving over to Libra, the soul of the air trinity. Libra as a soul, or the animating force of the thought, is really deeply interested in balance and harmony. And balance and harmony in terms of the thoughts here are to make sure that if we're going to get to our highest potential of Aquarius, we need to be in right relation. That means our thoughts need to be of a high quality and they need to be for the good of all. Libra makes sure that we are in service with our thoughts. That means when you wake up in the morning, your first thoughts aren't, how can I compete against the world? Which is her opposite in Aries. Aries is all about competition. But Libra, that balanced thought is, how am I going to contribute to the world? And knowing that your thoughts and your mind are set towards contribution, not competition, is that is what invigorates the air element in your body to then move in balance, to become a part of a balanced, benevolent polarity in the air trinity, which will give you access to Aquarius. I'm just going to check the chat real quickly here. I've noticed short breaths when my mental health is low. Yeah, exactly. The first thing, has anybody here ever dealt with anxiety? The first thing that happens is your breathing starts to get very fast. When a frightening event happens, a traumatic event happens, we often start breathing from the neck up. And we're not breathing full diaphragmatic breaths like we did when we were babies, because babies do this automatically. They breathe in through the nose and they breathe from their diaphragm. Whereas most adults are breathing from the neck up and really, really depleted of oxygen. And when you think about the quality of the oxygen in your body, like if I cut myself and I start to bleed, if I cover that injury, I will start to heal, but not as fast as if there was oxygen touching that injury. That's why when you take off the bandage, you take off the Band-Aid, you actually start to get a faster healing. The scab starts to form. Yeah, anxiety is short breaths plus fast heartbeats. Exactly. So that anxiety is a result of the breathing, and the breathing is a result of the anxiety. It is really hand in hand. So when you're dealing with any form of mental anguish, the most important tool that you can use is the quality of your breathing. And there's so many apps out there now that you can access to get those meditations, to get that breath work, and to help you if you need support in that slow breathing. There's lots of things that you can do to help with that. And then when that breath is in balance, you have access to that vital life force, those ideas that come in from Libra. Because remember, removing resistance is what gives us access to the energy of the soul. It's what gives us access to those balanced thoughts. So if you use your lungs and your breathing to remove resistance, i.e., long, slow, deep breaths, you will then access the soul of the air trinity, those big, beautiful, inspired, balanced thoughts. And this is quite literally a kind of a hack to balance your mind, because we are talking about the mind here when we talk about air. So when your mind is in balance and that electrical energy, the life force is moving into that inspiration, then you have access to Aquarius. And I forgot to mention as well that Aquarius, its I am statement is I know. I know is that state of peace that is not only about just knowing a piece of wisdom, it's about knowing without any doubt that you are connected to the divine. It is knowing you are connected to the divine, because spirit, in terms of Aquarius, and what this means is that Aquarius rules networks. Networks. So think about your neurological, the part of the neural networks of your brain, the distribution. Whenever we talk about any of these spirit aspects in the Holy Trinities of the elements, think about them as if they're distributing, because the divine androgynous that we covered there in that first Holy Trinity is what these things all are. And the homeostasis and the crown is all about distribution. Okay, so once you have that free flowing inspiration, now you have to share it with the world, because Aquarius rules the collective. And this is also why to become a great mystic, you must also become a teacher, because you must distribute the information that you learn and know. Otherwise, you will actually experience blockages in your third eye and crown chakra. At each level of the mystery school teachings and the esoteric teachings, you must bring other people with you to the level that you're at in order to achieve the next level of consciousness in that realm. So we all at some point must bring others with us, and that is that essence of the highest potential for the air element, is to share with the collective that which you know and help bring hope to the rest of humanity. It means, just like the old Tibetan teachings, leaving no one behind. Leaving no one behind, helping to influence the thoughts and the minds of the collective and of others. And you can see, of course, it's not only just pouring spirit into the body, but it's also cleansing our reality. It's cleansing the waters and bringing hope back. It also represents the biblical flood, Noah's Ark, has a lot to do with this sign of Aquarius. The Ark actually means it's the Ark of the Covenant, which is actually your brain. It's the covering of your brain. The essential, the word coven too in witchcraft, coven means, it just means your head. It means the quality of your thoughts or your homeostasis. Any questions so far? Just throw them in the chat. I know that I speak quite quickly, so I want to make sure that I'm covering everything, but not going too fast. And just
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I know you said the chat, but I'm on my phone and it's just easier to talk. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Okay. So I put that I'm a Gemini and I was listening to everything you're saying. I'm just curious, like, is having a heart rate monitor useful, since like air elements sit inside the heart, and you were talking about the heart rate and how it can potentially show you how you're doing?
Yeah, actually, I used to use a heart rate monitor in, I used to do bioacoustic sound healing. And the way that you would look at whether or not a certain frequency was helping or harming somebody is you would use that heart rate monitor. And if the person was receiving a healing or a beneficial kind of, essentially a healing from the frequency, the heart rate would start to lower.
Oh,
it would lower.
And then you'd know.
And you would know right away. So a heart rate monitor is actually a really good way to monitor your own electromagnetic frequency and your health.
Okay, and just a follow-up question, if you have time, like, and I have to do research on this, so you can just give a quick response. Like, in general, is like a lower heart rate kind of like what we're looking for?
Exactly. So low and slow and as much oxygen as you can, because what that does is that expands your aura, your toroidal field of energy. We call it the aura, but it's also our hormones. Okay, it balances our hormones. The word hormone means Horus, moon. So Horus, the word means sun, which is that soul, And mon, M-O-N, means moon or the feminine principle, right? So it's our, like, once again, this holy trinity, right, of feminine and masculine. So what that slow heart rate does is it puts your body into a state of trust and safety. And when
Yeah.
you're in a state of trust and safety, you are open and there's no electromagnetic resistance. And therefore, the soul, the electrical component, the animating force is able to flow freely and gives you access to all of the energy, to all of your power, essentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Okay, now I'm going to pop to the next guy here because we've been talking a lot about the soul. And now we're going to talk about the fire element. The fire element, or that animating life force principle, that has actually a lot to do with our personality. Our life force has a lot to do with our personality and our identity. Our identity. So, in the lower left corner, we have our magnetic principle, our feminine principle of fire, and our body, which is Aries. So, Aries is down here in the left hand corner because Aries is the command statement I am. This is quite literal, our ego. Now, if any of you know an Aries who I would say would be in their lowest potential, you might know that Aries can be quite egotistical. What I would call a juvenile Aries. The highest potential for Aries is actually to be collaborative, of course, as we're going to see in this Holy Trinity. But the ego, when it is self centered, is its lowest potential. But it's also important to develop your ego to understand who you are, right? Who you are is the divine feminine. Your who you are in the essence of the quality of who you are is always in the feminine principle. And I'm going to dive into this in a little bit more detail later on. But that Aries, when it needs to, when you see this Holy Trinity, you know that you want to get to its highest potential, right? So, how do you go from Aries to Sagittarius in spirit? Well, first you have to make it through Leo, the lion. Now, lions in the jungle, they are protected by, chosen by, and, you know, they can be discarded by as well. The lioness, the female aspect of the lion. So lions get chosen just by being a high quality guy. So the highest quality lion is the king, and he gets chosen by the lionesses because of his high quality. And he gets lots of attention and lots of nurturing just for being who he is, but being the highest quality. If the lion messes up and he becomes a jerk, the lionesses will literally choose a new king and make him fight the other lion, and they will exile him. That's why he is the archetype of Leo, because Leo is all about sharing your life force. It's all about giving that beautiful soul, that essence of yourself in a selfless way, as opposed to the competitive Aries. Then you have Leo that just wants to shine. It wants to be seen. It wants to be adored. But the profane, or the lowest potential for Leo, is being like, look at me, look at me, look at me, give me attention, without actually, you know, being chosen, if that makes sense. When you're chosen because, and you're getting that attention just because you have a big heart, because you have a contribution that is useful to others, that is what it means to be a true lion, to have a high quality heart, to be in right relation with your giving, with how you give to the collective. Chosen by quantification. Yeah, Junhee said, chosen by quantification. Oh, and Jen asked, what is the I am statement for Libra? It's I balance. It's I balance. Perfect. So, yeah, coming back to Leo, it's all about being witness and observe for the quality of giving that you give to the collective, because that is what opens up that surrendered heart. Or this, actually, the fire element is in the solar plexus. I forgot to say that. So if you know the chakra system, the solar plexus is where the element of fire sits. And if you think about fire as an element inside of your body, think about digestion, right? The digestion that heats up your body in order to assimilate and send the food down to the water and earth elements. So the fire element being your animating life force. So if you are exhausted, there is an issue with your digestion. If you have low on energy or you have too much energy, this also has to do with the fire element inside of you. Now think about, we just talked about the air element, right? How does air and fire interact? So if air comes down and brings in that spirit and then it touches that fire, it can stoke it, or a lack of oxygen you can be depleted, right? So when you have tons of oxygen in your body, what do you think you're doing? You're giving yourself more chi, more life force, more energy, because you are stoking this fire. And that's how those two will interact. So the higher potential of the fire element is Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius, once again, remember I said is your individual contribution, networks, distribution to the great all. Now, Sagittarius, the I am statement, and oh, by the way, the I am statement for Leo is I will, because it sits in your place of willpower, which is directly connected to how you perceive your self-worth. How worthy do you see yourself is directly related to that willpower that you have or do not have. So this is all about self-reflective love and beaming based on the quality of your own spirit. Now, when you have that quality of spirit and you have that heart energy, that big open space of heart, you can then share that. Sagittarius, the I am statement is I profess, I teach. So once again, this is the sign of the professor, or that person. You can see Sagittarius as that sign with that bow and arrow. That bow and arrow is pointed at Achilles' heel, which then sends Achilles running back up the hill and back into alignment. So Sagittarius is that great professor that shows you how to get back into alignment, that cheerleader. Sagittarius is also known for their comedy and their humor, because they say a great guru or a great teacher is locatable by the quality of their laughter. So this is the master of the fire element, or the master of the passions of the world. And the way that you share your highest form of power is to share with others, to teach others. And so once again, this has a lot to do with distributing the voltage of the highest potential of who you are. Any questions on the fire element so far? Okay. I'll keep checking if anyone has any questions. You can raise your hand in the chat too if you want to talk, or just put it right into the chat there. So next up is the water element. The water element is the sacral chakra. Excuse me. Now, water rules memory and echolocation. Water is the embodiment of the divine feminine. Water also rules the emotional realm. So when we talk about water, we're going to talk about the mastery of the emotional body of creator, or the highest potential of our emotional intelligence. So on the bottom left, we have Cancer, which is I feel. I feel the quality of my emotions, what I'm feeling. And Cancer is the densest form of water in our bodies. That is our blood. That is our nourishment. So we can either be nourishing, or we can be culminating illness with our emotions. What is echolocation? Echolocation is sonar. Echolocation means to send out a sound and then you receive an echo. Think about a submarine. Now, In the ancient times, when babies were born, they didn't cut the umbilical cord, and they allowed the baby to echolocate the mother's heart. So when the baby was born, it was just placed on the chest and it was allowed to crawl up and they would wait and wait and wait until that baby located the heart. And that was the first way that the baby was instilled with a sense of safety and belonging, because it located itself. It located itself. And this is one of the primary aspects of the divine feminine, is our safety and our belonging in our environments. So Cancer is a crab archetype. So why is it a crab? Well, the crab has this hard shell on the outside, and it is protecting this soft substance on the inside. It is a protector. It is, and it also, of course, is in the water, so it is part of the water element, of course, as a creature. But it's all about the essence of the nurturing, the caretaking. Cancer is often seen as the astrological sign of the mother, the nurturer, and it rules that place of the breast. Nicholas said that battery is low and want to know if this recording will be available to us. Yes, I am going to send this recording to you guys afterwards, most definitely. So that nurturing of emotions, that is Cancer. So I feel. So the protection of our emotions in Cancer, that place of the breast. So really understanding the way that you nurture in this world, the way that you nurture yourself with your emotional body. Then we move to Scorpio. And this is going to make Cancer make even a little bit more sense. So Scorpio is all about the hidden aspects of the emotional body. And it also rules inheritance. So in traditional astrology, they talk about inheritance as if it's just money that you're inheriting from somebody. But in esoteric astrology, we look at Scorpio as if it's talking about the inheritance of the genetic memory of your ancestry. So that means, because water rules memory, we are literally holding the memory of our ancestors in the waters of our body. And not only that, but the waters of our cerebral spinal fluid, called the human essential oil. We have what's called the Akashic records inside of us. The Akashic records are held in the cerebral spinal fluid. That means we have access to all of the memory of all of our ancestors until the beginning of time in our spine. And that's why when you see that highest human potential, you see that rod that represents the spine and a full electrical current. That means the spine is open and available for memory. Now, the problems that we receive in the water trinity are when emotions get stuck in the body. And the reason why emotions get stuck in our ancestry and they repeat into us, or they get stuck in our day-to-day life because of trauma, because of stress, is because we haven't completed the emotion. Now, emotion as a word means electrical motion. That fire element has come down and sent information into this water and electrified it with a message. That's how water holds the memory of our souls. And with that, in order to understand emotions and how energy moving and the voltage that just call in an emotion in your heart, it does animate us in a big way with voltage. So there are 103 human emotions according to the ancients and the Hawaiian esoteric teachings that I work with. 103 human emotions that all follow the same path of this holy trinity. Every single emotion has a body, it has a quality or an interest, which is the masculine, and it has a state of non-resistance, which is its homeostasis. Even grief, even, anger, joy, glee, all of these things have a holy trinity. To move or to complete an emotion is to have that emotion be understood, to come into full comprehension of it. And all cycles of emotion and all cycles of ancestral pain, that Scorpio, the painful, you see the stinger, the painful hidden things that nobody wants to look at. That water also represents our subconscious mind, the thoughts that we can't hear, the things that were programmed into us based on our experiences that are sometimes painful. Well, Scorpio is that great revealer of the occult, that which is hidden. That's why Scorpio rules the mystics, or the people that aren't afraid to look into the difficult information. So, what this teaches us about emotions is that, those feelings that are hidden deep inside must be completed by Pisces, the highest potential of the water element, which is unconditional love. If you even look at a difficult emotion like grief, it is completed by understanding and unconditional love. So let's say someone's passed on in your life. Maybe you lost a loved one, and that grief that comes and it closes down your body. And that grief comes along, that emotion exists because it's telling you that your heart is closed. It's like a warning. So, how do you complete the energy of grief? It is to be understood. It is to be understood and to allow the passing of that being, allow for the ascension of maybe the partner that's no good for you anymore, allow for the ascension of that relationship, allow for the ascension of the person that you're surpassing or that you must surpass, that person, place, or thing that must be surpassed or is surpassing you. When you come into a full understanding and complete it with unconditional love, you will complete the emotion. And in the course that I'm doing in a couple weeks on the 14th, I'm going to give exercises and deeper examples. But in the interest of time, I'm just going through these elements as like kind of like a masterclass of just the elements. But if you want to go deeper on this, you can join me for that as well. The other one. Now, so Pisces rules music. It rules poetry. It rules the exaltation, the sharing of emotions. That's why Pisces is the artist. So this also is teaching you how to move the emotions that are stuck and hidden, Scorpio, into the distribution of Pisces. One of my teachers says that all good teachers and all good mystics must first become poets. Knowing the way that you speak in an artistic way that deeply affects the waters of the subconscious is much more effective. If you can make people feel something, then you can affect their emotional shifting and their understanding. And that's what a good teacher can do. I also wrote at the top of all these things the starseed lineage that it represents. And once again, I'll go deeper on that on the other course, but for this one, you can take that information and you can send me questions and I'm happy to answer them for now. And now we're just going to quickly move right into Earth. So here is the Holy Trinity of Earth. Earth is pretty simple to understand. It is the physical. It's your, quite literal, your body and your finances, your material realm, all of those things that create the world that you're looking at, this three-dimensional reality. So in the feminine position of the body, of course, we have Taurus. The command statement for Taurus is I have. Taurus represents your possessions and wealth. Your possessions and wealth. Now, Taurus has a lot to do with pleasure. Taurus has a lot to do with comfort. Taurus has a lot to do with also the words that we speak. Now, the bull and the cow were used as the sign of Taurus because cows, when this kind of astrology was actually being created, and astrology has existed way before even this modern astrology, but the cow was the predominant symbol that families used to mark their wealth. If you had cows, you had milk, you had meat, you definitely had a comfortable home. You had a comfortable home. And this goes to say that your material body, your physical health of your body must be in right relationship in order to access material wealth. All of the nouns of your life, all the environments must be correct. You will put yourself into the right environments when you affirm and you deeply know and have a sense of belonging and safety. When you feel safe, you will not be manipulated by external um, forces. You won't be able to be manipulated by narcissism. When you are in right relationship with your internal feminine, which means that you affirm your own safety, you issue yourself your love, you issue yourself your worthiness, your self-acceptance. When you are coming from that perspective, you are wide open to receiving pleasure. Taurus, your
Mm.
body will feel open and expansive. And therefore, this also tells you that when you are in the right environment, your body feels open and expansive. When you're in an environment that's
Mhm.
harmful for you, your body shuts down. And we have to learn to listen to the body. The earth element, your body speaks. Your body speaks. This is the internal feminine. She's always speaking by way of sensation in the body. Now, the soul, the animating force of Earth, the animating force of Earth is Virgo. Virgo is I analyze. Now, you can see I put a picture of a hermit here, not a woman, so it's probably confusing a little bit, but Virgo here in the tarot deck, Virgo is represented by the hermit. Virgo, I analyze. So creating the right environments requires analysis. You must look at your physical health. You must analyze, okay, what are the tools that I need to, you know, hands up if you want to, you want to access more material wealth. Well, you're going to have a practical freaking plan, and you're going to have to go step by step by step. You can't just go from having, you know, an idea to being a millionaire or whatever your material goal is, or having a big house without having a freaking plan. That's just delusion. That's delusion. And so Virgo comes in to say, girl, find the tools you need. If you want to access, your highest
Oh,
material potential, you better stop being delulu, and you better get grounded into reality first by accessing the right environments, making sure that your energy is open. Because without that,
yeah,
don't even bother going to get the tools.
right.
Make sure you're in right relationship with your sensational body. Do you feel open and expanded? Okay, next step, gather the tools. The hermit, the magician is also Virgo in the tarot deck. If any of you access the tarot, getting the tools, analyzing what needs to be done before I can go into the highest potential of the material realm, which is Capricorn. Capricorn. Also, Virgo is your digestive system, like the large intestine. So think about it's analyzing all the minerals, right? It's picking out this is good for me, this isn't, this is going to become poop, this is going to go into my bloodstream, and all that kind of stuff. So think about it that way. Then moving into the highest potential of Earth, that is Capricorn, the spirit aspect of Earth. And Capricorn is I utilize. So that means, again, this also has to do with distribution. But Capricorn is unique, and you can see that this woman has like the horns of the goat. And traditionally, this particular sign is ruled by Saturn, which in the Bible is Satan, or the material realm, which is seen as like the dark evil thing, which it is not. Um, but certainly you can be overtaken by the material realm if you aren't working for the greater good of the collective. Now, this particular sign is all about like the essence of what a diamond is: hard work. The key thing that I want you to take away from Capricorn is the word consistency. Okay? Consistency. Because consistency informs new beliefs and therefore writes the programs of the subconscious. But if you affirm you're safe, you're open, you have all the right tools, but then you're not consistent, you're not disciplined, once again, you won't inform yourself of the new levels of consciousness that it's going to take in order to be able to magnetize those higher forms of the material realm into your reality, you must be disciplined. You must be like a diamond and repeat. That's why the philosophers use the philosopher's month of 40 days and 40 nights to repeat something in order to write a program. In order to enter into the mystery schools, you actually had to fast for 40 days and 40 nights just to show that you were capable of that level of discipline, because nobody becomes a mystic without that form of initiation. And that's why with most of my students and the people that I work with, I set them off on an initiation of 40 days, because there's no other way. There's no quick fixes when it comes to shifting the mind. And another really cool thing about the zodiac wheel, those 12 steps are literally the 12 steps to opening up your spine to be able to access the higher potentials of reality. Any questions so far? I know that I've gone through a lot of information in an hour. So I'm going to open up the chat for a Q&A right now, while I'm going to just cover a little bit about the fifth element of spirit. The fifth element of spirit. So just throw up your hands if you have any questions. Write anything in the chat from anything that we've covered so far. And I'm actually going to show you too that I use the 12 houses of the zodiac also to teach people how to shift different portions of their consciousness, because those I am statements will actually, if you follow them from 1 to 12, it's the 12-step program also in AA. Alcoholics Anonymous uses this as well. And it's really interesting. Let's see. This is also amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jen. Okay, so spirit element. Spirit as an element is the top 3 chakras from the throat all the way to the crown. And it's in the experiment of paradox. The spirit, the actual element of spirit, the consciousness that comes into your body, is also the predominant teachings of music. It is very difficult to understand with the brain. But if anybody wants to contribute to the conversation of spirit, I would love to hear it. Spirit element, I said, is by the starseed lineage of Lyra, which this is actually the eon, guys, that we're going into right now. Is we are leaving the eon of the predominant rulership of just being led by intellect, and now we're going into being led by spirit, which, as you can see here, it's represented by a phoenix, which means, you know, infinitely evolving, constantly evolving. You see the music, it's represented by Orpheus. If you read the tales of Orpheus, that is the allegory of the element of spirit. And they say that this phoenix is part feline, part bird or eagle, and part dragon. So I'm not gonna like info at you about the essence of spirit. I want you to meditate on those 3 animals and maybe write to me later and tell me what the sensation of those animals when in combination feel like to you. Because this is the eon that we're moving into, and it's going to be quite paradoxical, and things are going to change very quickly.
Can you repeat the 3 animals that you said?
Yeah, cat,
please?
Felines,
Yeah.
Eagle,
Yeah.
and dragon. So we are in the year of the wood dragon right now. And this is moving us into that initiation of the element of spirit.
And you mentioned,
yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned Lyra and how we're entering it. Did you say, what do you call that? Did you say like a eon?
Well, we are moving into the eon of the phoenix. Eon is literally a billion years. So we have completed, we've completed an age, which is 26,000 years cycle, which we're moving into what they call the age of Aquarius, which is one of those spirit guided air elements. But we're moving into the aeon of the child and the phoenix and innocence and the purity of spirit. Now, when I talk about starseed lineages as being associated with each of these elements, I will tell you that the medicine wheel, you guys know the indigenous medicine wheels, right? Or you have heard of them?
Heard of them, yeah.
Why are no zodiac signs associated with this element on its own? Well, it's a culmination. If you look back at all the highest potential of the elements, when they culminate, that's spirit. It's all the highest potentials combined. Okay, so what was I talking about here now? Oh, the starseed lineages. You guys have heard of the medicine wheels, right? So the medicine wheel of the South Pacific of Hawaii, these are the oldest astrologers in the world. These guys have ancient wisdom that is still being verbally transmitted that goes back like 20,000 years. And my teacher described to me their medicine wheel as they use not just the elements, but they use the star lineages. And the star lineages are essentially the birthplace of the violet light of the souls who enter here on Earth. So we are all part of various star lineages. Okay. And that just means that the violet light that comes in through your crown chakra is seeded and is a seed from a star system. And each one of those star systems is associated with an experiment or something that it came here to master or accomplish. The Draco constellation is the air element in their medicine wheel. Then we have Arcturus, which is the fire element. Then we have the water element, which is the Sirius constellation. And then, excuse me, we have the Earth constellation, which is the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters. And then we have the newest star lineage, which is just coming into the Earth right now, from Lyra. And how do I know they're coming into the Earth right now? Well, this is what the elders are saying. This is channeled from the elders. And also astrology. 5,000 years ago, and actually prior to 5,000 years ago, actually Lyra was our pole star, not Polaris. And some say that sometimes when we change into these, this complete cycle, so spirit is a complete cycle of all the elements. So we are going through a master completion right now as a collective. And you can feel it with all this change. You can feel that we are going through a master completion. Does anybody have any questions on any of that stuff? I know this was a lot. Yeah, go for it.
How long does I already forget the right term, but like how long would Lyra last?
Lyra, this that we're moving into is these ages that we go through often last 26,000 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And we just started that as of 2020. We started a new one, or 2022. And the beginning of it was 2020 onward. And you can see how chaotic things have started to kind of like, it's just like, if you do like breath work, like holotrophic breath work, and you move through a lot of stuff, and then, a lot of new information that you have to deal with comes up because of all the clearing. Well, that's what we're going through as a collective, is a great clearing.
And it lasts 26,000. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. And ages 26,000 years. And that's why the Mayan calendar ended. It was a 26,000 year cycle. And all the sun cycles that measure those long form calendars, they all concluded very, very recently.
Okay. Thanks.
And now we're moving into a new aeon and a new calendar. Ash says, master completion, does that mean new human? Yes, it does. Actually, it does. Because the 12 strands of DNA are connected to the 12 houses of the zodiac. When we go through a massive shift in our zodiac and where we are in the ethereal realm, these 26,000 year cycles that you just asked about, this is when human evolution sees major spikes. There is just massive evolution out of almost nowhere that can never truly be quantified without actually understanding the energetic impact of the zodiac. So we are going through a genetic transformation to what I've been told by the elders. They say that we're moving from Homo sapien to Homo luminous. Homo luminous. We are going through a massive shift in the evolution of our DNA. What wonderful time to be alive. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all chose to be here at a really interesting time in the human collective shift. And this is why these times are going to be strange. And this is why it's important to understand that these completions also, so you say master completion, yes, we are completing. So we are leaving the Pleiades. The experiment of the Pleiades is density, the material, the earth realm. density, gravity. It rules the experiment of gravity. We have gotten to the maximum point of density. We have achieved materialism. We have achieved the maximum point of density, and we are ready to accomplish it and move back into essentially a reset. We're resetting an entire cycle back into spirit. That's why spirit element is represented by the phoenix, the burning, the rebirth. All right, we're starting again from a new evolved portion. And a lot of kids are literally, they say this in the gene keys, by the way, that new types of children are actually being born genetically. And the gene keys are really cool to look at from this perspective of the Holy Trinity that we talked all about, that the shadow is the body, the gift is the soul, and the city, or the citic state, the highest potential, once again, is the divine androgynous or the homeostasis that we talk about here. So if you study gene keys, this is going to give you a whole new level of understanding of that. And I highly recommend gene keys if you want to unlock the codes of your own DNA. I'm working with it now, and it's fantastic. All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. If anybody has any other questions, just throw up your hand or put a comment in there now, and I'd be happy to answer them before we close up.
Hi, can you tell me about the shaman again? Who left the baby to crawl up to mom's mother? Which shaman is it? Tibetan?
So the culture that I'm specifically talking about is Mu, or some people call it Lemuria, but that word Lemuria came from Madame Blavatsky. She was a famous psychic. So the word Lemuria actually isn't in the doctrines of Mu, so it's Mu. So this is the South Pacific of Hawaii, and this is from their doctrines, and they still practice this teaching today. And a lot of the women give birth next to dolphins. If you watch that, because dolphins with that echolocation, those dolphins send echolocation into the waters of the mother, and it not only relieves the pain in the body, but it sends that information of safety into the baby. It's wild. And if you watch Avatar, that is a soft disclosure of the culture of Mu.
I just wanted to share how this session put all the things together from many aspects. And when you talked about the part, especially because you probably a lot of people already know that when a baby is born, the third of their blood is still outside their body,
Right.
and that's why we should never cut the cord that quick. Right. So when you mentioned that when baby crawls up to the heart and have the time to actually have the rest of the blood supply.
Yeah.
Like everything you mentioned through the session, I feel that you're really good. I mean, I'm so thankful, first of all, that you put all these things together, not one side of it, like, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all aspects of it. And so I'm actually very shocked at the moment, but I'm so glad that I connected to this session and you and all the other people here.
Thank you.
So I thank you again. And yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you guys all so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, if you want to dive into this stuff a little deeper, I'm just going to put my website here in the chat, and it's healmyhurts.com. You guys have probably already been there because you registered for the course, but I'll just throw it down there. We're going to go a little bit deeper on April 14th. I'm going to do a 4-part seminar, which is 2 hours each. So it'll give us a lot more time together to disseminate each sign in a lot more detail, and also talk a lot about, even go deeper on that Holy Trinity, because it applies to absolutely everything in our lives. And when you master that Holy Trinity, this is where you become a magician. This is where you become a master of these realities. And this is that information that's been hidden inside of all these beautiful holy texts and put it into allegories. They hid it into story form in order to keep the insincere away from the teachings. You guys are all incredible. Thank you, Ash. I appreciate your contribution as well. And thank you for all the questions and the contributions to the discussion. I really appreciate this so much. So I'm going to close up the course now, but thank you all so much. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
One thing,
Thank
Nicole,
you.
did you say it keeps them away from the teachings by putting it in storyboard? I missed that.
Sorry, say that again.
said they put it in story form to keep people away from the teachings. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So
Oh my
when
God.
religion, and this isn't to offend anybody who is religious, but religion, those holy texts have a lot of allegorical information that is hidden in parables. In fact, there's a Corinthians. It says, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it basically says that the word killeth, but the spirit of the text, vibrating at the spirit of the text, will set you free. So essentially, the Kundalini energy doesn't rise in the person who is essentially power hungry or wishes to distribute harm. The body only allows for that process to happen when you are in right relation with the collective. And so these secret societies and these people that hid this information, they knew this information and hid it in stories because you needed to be able to vibrate at the frequency. That's why we have access to this at this time, because we are living in the frequency of the shift. It's all available now. We are living in what's called the Great Awakening, or the awakening from the stupor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got a lot of information to digest, but
Yeah.
this was great. I'm sure I'll see you again and ask questions soon. So
Totally.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, there's a bunch of you I'll be seeing in the Fingerprint of Creator course coming up in the 14th. And until then, I send so much love to all of you and hope you have a great night.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
See ya.
Bye.